Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. Today we're decoding Trump tweets of, January 26th and 27th. And if we go long on this, we'll kind of cut it off, at least before the hour mark and start another one, or we'll do something. So, got that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's do the first one here. If Roger Stone was indicted for lying to Congress, what about the lying done by Comey, Brennan, Clapper, Lisa Page, and Lover, Baker, and so many others? What about Hillary to FBI and her 33,000 deleted emails? What about Lisa and Peter's deleted texts and Weiner's laptop? Much more.
Well, Betsy, as long as you're head of an intelligence agency, you can lie all you like Clapper and Brennan, and all you do is then get a job in mainstream media, high-paid consultancy to speak on as an authority. An authority who's a liar, kind of like an Oliver North, kind of like a Karl Rove. These people, you have to remember when you're thinking about them that they protect their own. If these are career politicians or elite on the inside, it doesn't matter how many times they perjure themselves. Let's remember Mark Elias perjured himself sitting there with John Podesta and said they didn't even know anything about a dossier, let alone paying for it. Okay, I mean, we saw Comey perjure himself 3 times on just the issue of whether there was actually an investigation on Trump, not to mention all the leaks. And then you have a Michael Horowitz who is supposed to be checking into this type of thing in his 7 different investigations that are going on, one of which he acted on, which was an indictment for the only leaker he found, or the only person who demonstrated any politicalization between the DOJ and the FBI in relationship to Trump. I mean, that is completely absurd. You can't hardly name anyone who wasn't. So, what this is about is very, very interesting, that Trump is basically calling it out exactly as it is. Michael Cohen can lie about Trump, and what happens, it turns into a plea deal of guilty for election campaign fraud. That's a lie. It's a lie. How could you plead guilty to a lie, and how could Mueller accept a lie? Because it's all based upon lies. And so basically what he was saying in that is, it's just disgusting that a Roger Stone or that Jerome Corsi or that Sam Clovis or any of the other ones they have basically destroyed in the Mueller investigation could be caught for what is a process crime. The process crime means that they had a statement of yours that you didn't know they had, and because you changed the tense of a verb, they call that a lie when you were asked about that same exact question. And yet they do not tell you that they have the transcript that they surveilled you illegally for, and they're holding against you and asking you questions. And to the best of your memory, you answer it to the grand jury.
That's entrapment. That's just entrapment.
It's entrapment, absolutely.
And so they entrapped him, and they need somebody. They need a boogeyman, because they cannot start their narrative of impeachment unless they have something.
Well, they got 7 indictments on Roger Stone. Of course, we don't know if any of those things will actually pan out, but it doesn't matter. They're going to give that out to another court to finish it up, and they're going to, like I heard, Mad Cow, Rachel Mad Cow screaming and yelling, 34 indictments, he's got to be impeached. None of those indictments were against Trump or against people who were part of his team during the time that any of this happened. And the indictments had nothing to do with what the original intent of the investigation was, which there was no crime for, which makes it illegal to begin with, which was to find out if there was any conspiracy or collusion between Trump's team and Russia, which there has been none found so far, including the 34 indictments, including the imaginary Russians, including the list of GRU Russian operatives, including Concord Catering. But Manafort and Gates, we've told you about their crimes long before any of this ever came down.
CBS reports that in the Roger Stone indictment, Data was released during the 2016 election to damage Hillary Clinton. Oh, really? What about the fake and unverified dossier? A total phony con job that was paid for by crooked Hillary to damage me in the Trump campaign.
Yeah, let's stop there. And I know it goes on to the next one. But let's just talk about this for a second, because some people don't understand, why is Roger Stone even involved in any of this? Roger Stone was involved because he was one of the people telling Trump back in the year 2000 that he should run for president. He's the number one person who kept hammering on Trump he should run for president. And so he started off as his campaign manager. But because of some involvements with some really weird little things where somebody sued Roger Stone and actually Trump and many other people simply because of a text message, and then that was thrown out in the court. But this is what Roger Stone did. Oh, he did some horrible things. When he was no longer connected to the Trump team, and Guccifer 2.0 started bragging that Guccifer had hacked the DNC and started arguing with Dmitry Alperovich, basically trying to indicate that Guccifer was a Russian, Roger Stone got in on the conversation, public conversation, and he basically, I don't remember whether they were tweets or whether they were text messages or where it was done, but I do remember reading them in their original form, that he communicated with Guccifer and basically got nowhere, didn't get anything from Guccifer, and now they accuse Guccifer 2.0, who they've never caught, of being a Russian, and that Roger Stone, therefore, had collusion with the Russian, which they never proved he was a Russian, because he tweeted him. I think there was 3, 4, 5 messages back and forth. Okay? That was his big crime? That's what he got him for? It is absolutely unbelievable. The other thing that he got him for is that Roger Stone had said, after WikiLeaks had said many times, 5, 6 times, they were going to release material that would be very damaging to Hillary Clinton. They did. But then Roger Stone, well, all of us basically, said the same thing. And Roger Stone just happened to put it in print, which was, there's going to be more. Why? Because when you read the first WikiLeaks communications between Podesta and Podesta's emails and Hillary from the DNC server and from Podesta's particular and from Podesta's own personal email account, you said, wait a second, Julian Assange, you said this was going to take Hillary down. These WikiLeaks don't take Hillary down. Everyone then speculated and said there's more. And Assange insinuated there would be more, and then there were more. So they're going to get Roger Stone for saying that he knew there was more coming after the first WikiLeaks? That's like stupid. And that's why Roger Stone is going to fight it, and he believes he's going to win. But what they're doing in this particular case is they're looking for, but they never found anything to do with Roger Stone and Russians. It was simply that Roger Stone was bragging that he knew more leaks were to come. That was it. So there's nothing there. It's another nothing burger. Plus, while we're here in between and while I'm thinking about this, I just want to say, when I bash California...
Yeah, you need to fall on your knees and ask for forgiveness for the Californians that are filling my email box about you bashing them about building a fence between us and California.
Look, all the good people in California, the few of you that are there...
Don't even go
there. I anticipated you'd get out of California before the wall was built in the eastern part of that sanctuary state, because the sanctuary state is a rebel state that has seceded from the Union. Okay? There have been votes taken to secede from the Union in California. So if you're in California, be careful. It could either fall into the ocean from an earthquake, and there's been a lot of earthquakes lately. It could, of course, burn down because PG&E, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the people who live in California. I have some of my dearest friends who live there. Just like the Brits. When I'm attacking the Brits, I'm attacking the entire United Kingdom, but I'm attacking the monarchy that rules them and anyone who wants to be ignorant enough to live there and not know these things. Consciousness can transform everything. Conscious Californians can transform things. For instance, the PG&E, it's because of the lawsuits of the people who lost their homes. So many of them now have backed up Pacific Gas and Electric's debt because they refuse to take care of their electrical lines, which cause all these fires, and then blame it on other people, that they're, of course, declaring bankruptcy. That's because of people who are activists in California. So I suggest that you get very active and get rid of Pelosi and get rid of Feinstein and get rid of Newsom, your new governor, who is Pelosi's nephew. He is crazier than a loon. He is got the illness of the Pelosi family,
but
which
where
is
it
just
starts,
nuts.
where it starts today is getting involved in your election process, because the ballots are being rigged in cyberspace, and that's where we need to attack it. And I'd really like to see the progress that Tim Canova is making. He ran against Debbie Wasserman Schultz down there in Palm Beach, and it looks like he's found the anomaly of 98,000 votes where they can't attach the vote to any particular voter anywhere. It's just something magical that happens in the black box, and that is going on in everybody's districts out there if you're using these electronic voting machines.
Absolutely, Betsy. And we have done so much exposure of that with the help of Michael McKibben and his researchers in Aim for Truth, as well as the Americans for Innovation. And we're going to come to that in a couple tweets here in a minute, but you're absolutely right. It's about changing where you live. You can do that because it really comes down to small numbers. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez got elected by, I believe, a margin less than 3,000 votes. In other words, if you aren't careful about those votes and make sure that only people with proper IDs that demonstrate that they are not illegal aliens are actually going to vote, and they're only going to vote once, I have some good suggestions I'm going to make here in a minute about what we can do about that. But
okay.
You've hit that nail on the head.
Well, it is true, because there is something we could do before 2020 in our local community with just the voting process. Next tweet continues this one. What about all of the one-sided fake media coverage, collusion with Crooked H, that I had to endure during my very successful presidential campaign? What about the now revealed bias by Facebook and many others? Roger Stone didn't even work for me anywhere near the elections.
Well, I'm going to start with that last sentence. Roger Stone didn't even work for him. So how in the world do they think 7 indictments against Roger Stone can cast aspersions upon Trump's conspiracy with Russia? No, not possible. And when Trump says here, what about all of the one-sided fake media coverage? Okay, one-sided fake media. We all know all news is Democrats. All news, except for a little bit of Fox News. I think they got a couple Republicans working over there. But it's all fake.
Yeah, but that a lot of those Republicans are actually globalists.
And they're working against Trump. As you
Yes.
say, so many people are now turning against Trump who literally have made their livelihood by supporting him.
Well, that was to gather us all in their limited hangout and then to, dump their negativity on us. And people can walk away. They don't have to listen to them anymore.
I got a lot to say about this, as you know. I say close them down, book them, Dano. The mainstream media, the Fourth Estate, are not working for the people. They're working against the people. And it is a conspiracy, it is a monopoly, and it is racketeering. One-sided. It is democratic. It is Democrats. Demon rats. Let's make clear who I'm speaking about here. The mainstream media supports the demon rats. They support open borders. They support George Soros. They support the people who pay them. And so when we're talking about the bias Facebook is so dadgum biased that what are we going to talk about first in terms of its bias? They're probably going to lose multi-billion-dollar lawsuits here in America until they're closed. That's what I predict. It won't be long. But they were paid by the Atlantic Council and George Soros $1.5 billion for the Digital Forensic Research Laboratory, AI, that is now scrubbing everything on Facebook. In other words, no free speech on that platform whatsoever. But that's not the bad part. During the election, since they are completely 100% demon rats, then every single thing that they did for the demon rats was illegal because it was not declared as election campaign donations. Mm-hmm. So, the U.S. Digital Service, $1.5 billion, Eric Schmidt's gift to attempt to get Hillary elected, that is a crime. Strategic Communication Laboratory, when we paid them $85 million to run the Global Engagement Center and run fake ads against Trump and to run the very things that were blamed on the Russians, that's also a crime. When we look at the algorithms that were changed by Eric Schmidt for Google, that's a crime. When we look at the template to win that was paid for by Eric Schmidt and was actually developed by a Russian in India and then was used in America and paid for, again, once it came to America through the GSA, where Hillary Clinton literally paid to have a template for her to win the election that would then go into Facebook, that's a crime. So when we're talking here about the bias of Facebook, I would just underline that and underscore very clearly that's a crime.
Many others. What about Google and Eric Schmidt's involvement, and even Twitter? The social platforms are all dominated by the globalists.
Yes, I just focused on them, but you're right. It's all of them. Now, when they say crooked Hillary and her collusion, holy heavens, to Betsy, Hillary was Santa Claus to Putin. Gave him $400 million last time she saw him during a nuclear summit, built him a new enrichment plant in Russia, but this is supposed to be our enemy. And really, who did Putin like better? Did Putin like Hillary better, who basically built him his tech city, gave him his new hypersonic missiles, built him a uranium enrichment plant, or did Putin like Trump, who was a seasoned New York real estate magnate, a shark, let's call him, who was winning against the Russian oligarchs in New York, the Chinese oligarchs, against the mafia, against the mob? Why would Putin want to come up against Trump? No, Putin was for Hillary all along. That's the reason there was no Russian interference. He knew that Hillary had already done everything that money could possibly do to get her elected. Putin knew, that George Soros had given all that money to 184 different non-governmental organizations who worked day and night against Trump for Hillary. So here's what I have to say about that. Putin and Hillary are sitting in the uranium one tree. KISSING. They are better than in bed. They are married. They are going steady. They are promised. I don't care what you want to call it. No one's closer than Putin and Hillary.
Well, wait a minute. What if this is all blackmail? What if Putin knows that 9/11, what really happened on 9/11, and he's using that as blackmail to these folks to get what he wants built in Russia?
Wow, that's
well,
brilliant.
We know the Russians know
that's
all.
Brilliant. I never thought of that.
They know all the stuff, and so they said to George Bush and Hillary and the whole gang, "Hey, look, we're going to expose it to the American people."
Well, here's what they were getting, and this is why.
Because why in the world would Bob Mueller be taking yellow cake over to the Russians?
That you hit it on the head.
You know?
You're always jumping ahead of me and thinking smarter than I am and faster. But why? Because of the Uranium One deal was the Clintons saying, hey, look what Bush set up with the U.S. Enrichment Corporation, where he became filthy rich by letting Russians literally take apart their missiles, downgrade their uranium, supposedly, bring it over here, enrich it here, and then sell it to our nuclear facilities here in America, our nuclear power plants, U.S. nuclear power plants. Russians used their uranium. Now, we have thousands of those missiles sitting here, and they have yet to have their uranium taken out of them. So we could have been using that uranium for free. But no, we had to use Russian uranium, and it was called megatons for megawatts. And I calculated once how much money it was. It was untold amounts of money. That's all I can say. Mega billions, billions and billions, tens of billions of dollars over the uranium scam. And then what happened? The Clintons said, well, I'm getting in on this. I'm going to have my friend Frank Giustra, who's into fake gold, buy a fake uranium mine, and then we're going to buy some mines in America that Hillary has made sure that the State Department has basically allowed to come up available to mine, which they never were able to be mined before Hillary. And then she allowed the CFIUS committee to allow America to sell uranium to Putin. And then she got $145 million, and Bill got $200 million through the Clinton Juster Sustainability Fund. So we're talking $345 million. Putin and Hillary sitting in a tree, Kissing, and Bill is on the ground counting the money because...
Bill Clinton is a rapist.
Bill Clinton has been proven to be a rapist repeatedly, and for some reason, no one wants to prosecute him. I guess it's kind of like when Comey came out and said no reasonable prosecutor would even consider prosecuting Hillary Clinton for the largest espionage
because she holds
case.
The encryption keys of the FBI. So none of us here are that stupid to do that to her.
Correct. Plus, we don't want to be Arkansas.
Yeah.
We don't want to be killed.
Yes.
Because everybody who gets in Hillary's way and Bill's way, that's what happens.
Okay. And then the next tweet that follows is witch hunt. Now, and it's in capital letters and everything. And so what I want to get back to here on this witch hunt thing, what I believe what we're really seeing is that this whole thing with Mueller and all of that is a false flag. It's a type of false flag. Now, we've seen other false flags that are implemented on the ground. So you see them, the things with the school shootings or San Bernardino. And we follow that in independent media so that you can spot a false flag. In fact, Thomas wrote an amazing article on how to perceive false flags. So when you look at what Mueller's doing, you really see a false flag in operation, but it's one that's like in the information landscape. And it makes sense because if we are in the great information war, the battlefield is in who has truth, who has knowledge, who has intelligence, you know what I mean? So what they're trying to do is run a propaganda war against us with this false flag.
Absolutely. This witch hunt is perception management. It's a perfect example, as you've just pointed out. Witch hunt. They're trying to prove that Trump is the witch. Wrong. In perception management, you turn the tables 180 degrees, then you call your enemy what you are. So who is the witch? Well, first off, that would be Manafort, Cohen, Gates, Podesta, John, and Tony, Joseph Mifsud, Stephen Halper, and all of those people. They're the witches. I'm sorry, Manafort. I'm sorry, Cohen. Sorry, Gates. But you are.
But you didn't put Felix Sater in there.
Oh, no, we got, as I say, there's a ton of them. He would be one of the top witches. Sergey Millian, John Brennan, Clapper, the whole gang, Comey, McCabe. Do not forget the head witch, Hillary Clinton, and the head... Well, he's a witch too because he's not much of a man, Barack Obama. He was a witch too. Now, who was running it? This is the way perception management works. You supposedly get the most ethical person you can as the distraction to come in to basically bolster the confidence of anyone listening that, it's going to be fine because we have a really, really moral person running it. So we heard the biggest lies in human history when they told us all that Robert Mueller was the most ethical person in D.C. He covered up 9/11. He's the most unethical person in D.C. He is the head warlock. So the witch hunt is being run by the head witch. And what are they doing? They're using perception management to turn it around. And in perception management, you create false facts and you lie. You actually... Perception management requires that you lie on multiple levels, usually around 3 levels. You create false facts. You tell multiple lies in single statements. And the greatest person we have in America right now for that is Schumer. Schumer can't read a single sentence that doesn't have 2 or 3 lies in it. Now, you got Pelosi, and everything that she says is premised on a lie, and she can fit 5 and 6 lies into one statement, and it may not even be a sentence. But that's what you do for perception management. You take people in high positions who are supposed to be respected, like a John Roberts, the Supreme Court Justice, and you get his opinion. I don't care about his opinion. That's like, and then you go out, and what you do is you create a barrier around it where you have people yelling what the narrative is. And what is that? That's Hollywood. Those are paid actors in a union that if they don't do what they're told, get kicked out and they don't get another contract.
Are you kidding? Some of these reporters are actually, by profession, actors and actresses. You take that Sarah Carter that always shows up there, she's an actress.
Yes, exactly. And so that's one of the false things. You actually have crisis actors, or you have people who go in who are literally paid, like a Brennan or a Clapper or a Comey. They are paid to lie. And because of their supposed status and their position or whatever, that they are, an innocent young person or whatever, that they are then believed. They are simply paid. Those are liars. The perception management is Psyops. It's weaponized psychological operations that attempt to change your behavior. That's what it's doing. It first surveils you, it assesses you, and I forget, Michael McKibben says this, that after they know a few thousand of your, not even a few thousand, but after a few thousand clicks on the internet knows you better than you do. They know where you're going next. They know what to sell you. They know what you need to buy, and you haven't even pictured it in your mind yet, because they have targeted you. And you see it. This is not a passive, we're not talking about passive surveillance. We are talking about everyone, for commercial purposes, is a witch. You are what is called a war actor. You are an enemy of the state, and you are being propagandized, you are being surveilled, you are being analyzed, and you are being targeted and controlled. And that's just the way it is, because they want your money. And you think that they're not going to take that into what the state and the administration and the warmongers want to do? Look at Robert Mueller, him and Comey, perfect examples. They are either working for the military-industrial complex as liars, spilling the beans on top secret information they have, or they're working for crooked banks, or they're working for crooked hedge fund management companies, or they're back in the Department of Justice, or they're in the FBI. Why is that, folks? Because they are fixers. They are the witches. They are the warlocks. They are making money every single moment that there is a war anywhere in the world that the United States is involved in. And that's what we're dealing with here. A witch hunt run by witches.
The next tweet is about voter fraud, and I want to read this one and one that's closer to the top so we can kind of pull those together. So the first one is 58,000 non-citizens voted in Texas, with 95,000 non-citizens registered to vote. These numbers are just the tip of the iceberg. All over the country, especially in California, voter fraud is rampant, must be stopped. Stronger voter ID. And then later, it's a retweet that the state of Texas discovered approximately 95,000 individuals identified by DPS as non-U.S. citizens have a matching voter registration record in Texas. Approximately 58,000 of whom have voted in Texas elections. Any illegal vote deprives Americans of their vote. So let's just kind of lump all that voter fraud together.
Well, I'm going to start with the first one last.
Yeah.
Okay, see the word any illegal vote deprives Americans of their voice. Voice, no, it invalidates the entire election. One. And now we have 58,000 and 95,000 who were signed up to do it. But they were nervous because of Trump, and they thought they'd have ICE agents outside of the polls. And that's literally well known that the vote was low because they thought they might be arrested, because they certainly know that they came into this country illegally and they're voting illegally. And this, I say, 58,000 in Texas, then we don't take any votes from Texas. Done. If you cannot prove...
What you're saying, that if your state can't get a handle over the voter fraud, then the representatives that they elect cannot go and be seated in Congress.
Correct. If you cannot count your votes without digital machines, which we know are rigged using Optech software, which a child can walk by that machine and from, what's it called?
Wireless?
Computer Anywhere or whatever. There's a simple program you can use to...
PC Anywhere.
PC Anywhere. You can walk by a voter machine with Optech in it, which is every single one in America, and change the vote off your phone. They don't even use 2.0. They use 1.0. These machines have been rigged since the time of Jimmy Carter, and we can't use them anymore. So if a state cannot prove the absolute chain of custody and hand-counted and physical ballots, which can be counted over and over and over again, and no more ballot harvesting, no more collecting
Voter
ballots after the
ID.
day.
We need voter ID with that,
No
too.
more mailing in anything unless there's a reason if you're in the military. No more of this. You either have a voter ID or you don't get to vote. And that voter ID cannot be your California driver's license, which is what they do in California. If you can get a driver's license, and anyone can, then you can vote in the state of California. Therefore, the entire state of California is invalid. We cannot take their votes. We know already from the reporting of 17 states that 3.5 to 5.5 million illegal votes were cast. That is all of them. Well, not all of them. The majority of them, of course, as you full well know, were cast by illegal aliens, and they were cast for Hillary in that particular election. So there went her popular vote. For those of you who want to get rid of the Electoral College, what all you're doing is mob rule. Then you go back to democracy, where everybody yells their vote out loud, and the loudest vote wins. And that's all this is. This is the loudest vote wins. These are not citizens. These votes are invalid. If we had a wall, we would actually begin...
No, if we complete the wall. When we complete the wall.
Absolutely. Well, as is said here in this beautiful tweet, that we spend so much money on illegal aliens that it is a spit in the bucket to build the wall, and then we might be able to start to have legal elections.
And of course, the tweet you're referring to reads, "We are not even into February, and the cost of illegal immigration so far this year is," and there's a precise number, I'll round it off, close to $19 million. $19 billion. Cost Friday was $603 million. There are at least 26 million illegal aliens, which you've always said, Thomas, not the 11 million that have been reported for years in our country. So ridiculous.
And then DHS, he just puts that there. Kirsten Nielsen, he hasn't fired you yet, love child of Kelly, but let me just say that you better get on the ball, because you're still doing a very, very, very bad job. You were supposed to have analyzed this last midterm election. If you couldn't find voter fraud after what the Secretary of State of Texas just tells us in the news article and now here in this tweet, if you can't find the fraud, you're not looking. You're blind, or you're part of the problem. You're 100% complicit. So all we need to do is simply follow the rules. And yes, if we followed the rules, then the 26 or 25,772,342 illegal aliens, okay, that's not a rounded off number, folks. That's the exact number they know that are here. If they know they're here, they know where they are. If they know where they are, they need to be deported. But we can't deport if we don't have a wall, if we don't have a barrier, because they just come right back. Some of these people come back a dozen times, and each time they do, to commit bigger crimes. Because why? They know they are going to be released. They can commit any crime they want. Illegal aliens are criminals. We need to stop thinking that they're just nice little migrant workers who come up to pick fruit and vegetables in California. That is not who they are. They are very well thought out criminals who are using the loopholes in our immigration law, which will not be addressed.
Put there by Barack Obama and his team for many, many years.
Correct. And then the Obama not enforcing those laws, which don't get me upset about that, because he created a dozen different ways where he could skirt around the law. That's why we have a known 25 million illegal aliens. But as we've said, it's actually much more than that.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up now, and then we will have another audio to finish off some of these tweets.